In this video, I'm going to discuss what happens if you apply for a BTO, got a queue number but for whatever reason did not pick a flat. I will also discuss scenarios where there are only a few units to choose from and how the race quota works. So, if you skip your appointment or decline to pick a unit when your queue number is called, you will incur a non-selection count, lose your first-timer priority status for one entire year, and have all of your ongoing HDB flat applications instantly cancelled. HDB heavily strictly enforces this rule to deter window shopping and ensure flats go to buyers with urgent housing needs. The severe consequences depend on your current application status. So first of all, let's talk about the penalty for first-timer families and couples. So what will happen is that you will be demoted to second-timer status. Your account is downgraded to the second-timer tier for 1 full year in the computer ballot. And then you will also face drastic drop in flat allocation. Second-timers face a massive reduction in allocated flat quotas. For perspective, up to 95% of BTO supply is legally reserved for first-timers, leaving second-timers to fight over the remaining 5%. And then your ballot chances will be reset to 0. Any additional ballot chances you might have accumulated from past unsuccessful BTO applications for standard flats are going to be permanently wiped out. And then now let's talk about penalty for first-timer singles and also second-timers. Basically, these two groups will face a complete 1-year ban. If you belong to these groups, a single non-selection count will completely bar you from participating in any HDB sales exercise, whether it's BTO, SBF, or open booking for 1 full year period. Now, there are exceptions where penalties are waived. HDB will completely waive your non-selection penalty under only 2 specific conditions, at least as far as I know. The first one is if there are fewer than 10 BTO flats left for you to choose from when your number is being called, or if it's SBF process, then you only have less than 5 SBF flats to choose from. But let's say you're being called to the HDB office and then there are still 11 or more BTO units available on the board. Even if, let's say, you're only left with second floor unit facing the rubbish chute or have bad feng shui, you just have to pick one. If you walk out without booking, then the penalties will kick in immediately. If there are still more than 10 total BTO flats left in the project, but 10 or fewer flats are available for your specific race due to the Ethnic Integration Policy or EIP quotas, HDB will waive your non-selection penalty. The rule explicitly tracks your actual realistic choices at the exact moment your queue number is called, rather than just the overall physical building inventory. So how the waive triggers for your race? They have this actual availability rule, where HDB evaluates the number of flats available for selection by you. If the Chinese, Malay, or Indian/others quota for that project has been heavily filled by earlier applicants, leaving 10 or fewer units open to your ethnic group, then you can freely walk out the room without choosing a flat. In such case, your status is protected. If you walk away under this very specific condition, this means you will not receive a non-selection count. Your first-timer priority status remains perfectly intact and your accumulated ballot chances will not be reset to 0. But then you might ask how to check your real-time quota. Don't guess the numbers before your appointment. You must actively monitor the live ethnic quota balances on HDB flat portal or the digital screen inside the HDB hub waiting area right before your queue number is being called. But again, the limit for BTO is 10. If there are still, let's say, 11 flats left for your race, then unfortunately you lose the waiver protection. Even if those 11 units are completely undesirable, you just have to pick one or take the penalty. Declining at that point will trigger the full penalty, stripping you of your first-timer priority for a year. Now let's talk about a very special case, which is mixed-race couple. Now, for a mixed-race couple, HDB grants you the flexibility to choose either the husband's or the wife's race as your official household ethnicity. Let's say there's a scenario where the husband is Indian but the wife is Chinese, then you must formally declare at the time of your application whether you want your household to be classified under the Chinese quota or the Indian/others quota. So it's not about following the race of the husband. It can be either one. This decision holds massive structural weight, impacting both your immediate application odds and your future financial exit strategy. Because note that once you select your household ethnicity during your first flat purchase, that decision is legally locked for the entire lifespan of your property ownership. and you cannot change this later. When you eventually want to sell your flat in the open resale market, you will be bound by the exact same chosen quota. So for example, if you choose Chinese, then you must sell to a Chinese buyer unless the block's Chinese quota happens to be below the limit. But if you choose Indian, then you must sell to an Indian or others buyer if the block's minority limits are full. To pick the best option for your mixed-race household, then consider how the two quotas compare across different stages of flat ownership. If we consider the BTO application availability, if you opt for the Chinese quota, then most likely the allocation is highly abundant. Chinese quota, in general, take up the largest slice of flats in any given BTO block, maybe roughly between 84 to 87%. But then, for Indian or others quota, it is much smaller pool. Roughly, only 12 to 15% of units in a block are allocated to this pool. And then regarding BTO non-selection penalty risk, if you opt for the Chinese quota, this is actually has higher risk because there are so many Chinese units household, it is rare for them to drop to 10 or fewer units quickly, meaning you are less likely to get a penalty waiver if you walk out. But if you opt for the Indian or others quota, it is safer in terms of penalty waiver because the pool is smaller, then the units can snap hit 10 or fewer remaining very quickly, giving you an easier out to walk away without penalty. This is of course assuming that you don't want to pick a unit for whatever reason. Now in terms of future resale pool or when it's time for you to sell after MOP, if you pick the Chinese quota, obviously you have a massive buyer pool in Singapore. It is significantly easier and faster to find a buyer later on as the vast majority of local buyers fall into this tier. But if you are under the Indian quota, then you will have restricted buyer pool. If the block's Indian/others quota hits its ceiling, then you can only sell to another minority buyer, which can depress your property value due to lower demand. I hope that's clear, but if you have any other question, feel free to leave a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye. To support my work, you can give a one-time tip by pressing the thanks button, pick the amount that you want, and click buy and send. Or you can also press the join button for exclusive contents and monthly membership. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.